Hi, welcome back to our second session on invoicing within the Visage system. And in this session we're going to look at the relationship between people involved with the frontline customer-facing order processing tasks, those people that are actually entering invoices onto the system, and the people out in the back in the warehouse that are actually fulfilling these orders, packing them up, shipping them off out to our customers, and also potentially involved in some light assembly work. The scenario, I suppose, here that I'm looking at is specifically where there may be some products that you make internally. It's not a full-on heavy manufacturing MRP2 environment or anything similar. It's what I'd classify as light assembly, where you get a number of products, two or more, put them together. Putting together may be as simple as putting them into a plastic bag. Maybe you need to screw some things together, or it may be a little bit more involved than that. But whatever, the process is, as I said, what I'd classify as a light assembly process. And we're just going to work through the process here in terms of the information flows between those sales order entry people and the people out in the warehouse, because like I'd lump it, these two groups of people are joined at the hip, and really everyone in the organisation is, but especially those people that are dealing with customers and dealing with the warehouse side of things. So to get things underway, we'll just do an invoice very quickly out to my favourite customer. We'll get an order number in, and we'll just go straight across to the product screen. And I'm just going to order one of a very particular product, and it's my Ross Ferris test assembly product. Now you'll notice here that the system has come up, and although I've only ordered one of them, it's automatically said we're delivering 0, back ordered 1. That's because we have none in stock currently. If I just click on the 0 quantity, I may not have known it, well, I probably did, but this is actually an assembly, so I've gone directly out to the inventory assembly inquiry. So it's called that product up for us, showing us all the componentry. If we have a look at the table up here on the right, we'll see we have 0 on hand at the moment, but we have parts on hand right now to make 7. So potentially we could make 7. The potential quantity there is obviously just the sum of available plus what we have parts for. And of course, if we read down this table here, if that top product was something we could source somewhere else, we could actually make 19 and so forth. So we have parts on hand to actually go and make this product, if that's what, if push comes to shove. And obviously, in this scenario, that's what we'd like to see happen, because we don't want to back order this product. Look, it's early in the morning, the guys out in the warehouse can get this ready, and I can get it on the truck by today without any problem at all. Now, if this is all the customer's ordering, it doesn't matter. There may have been other products there, but to keep things simple, we'll just keep the one product on this invoice. At this stage, I would save it. Now, I'm just going to come back to the front screen. Normally, if the person entering the invoice wanted this to get picked, we've got all the stock available and we want it to go and get picked, they would check this flag here that says OK to pick. In this case, and I'm going to renege on what I said, I'm actually going to order some of another product on here as well that we actually have stock for. Once more, it doesn't really matter. So although I could go and pick one of these items, at the moment the other one hasn't been built yet. So what I'm going to do is not flag the product as being okay to pick. In terms of its priority, yes, potentially it can be picked, but the important flag on this screen in terms of inventory management and warehouse management is that I am not at this stage flagging this item as being okay to pick. So I'll just hit save, and my invoice number is allocated, and that's it. I'll wait for the phone to ring again. Now, right now, the way that you're working, there could be a whole string of things that happen at this stage, and possibly even before I save the invoice. You might If you're taking the order, run out, speak to people in the warehouse, find out whether you can actually go and make this product or not. Have a cup of coffee on the way, whatever that process actually is. In this scenario, with Visage, I'm not leaving my desk. I'm not even picking up the phone to call the people out in the warehouse to say I'd like them to build something. All I've done is save my invoice, but the invoice has been flagged as not okay to pick. Now, across in the warehouse, if we just get out of here, these guys are going to be stuck in the inventory system, and there is potentially a group of them with a process like this up on the screen. And this will automatically refresh and so forth. And if it had been up on the screen and they were looking, when I saved my invoice, it would have automatically appeared on this thing called a build list. Now, the build list is a list of all the products that we need to build, that we need to assemble internally. So in other words, these are all going to be internal assembly products that we have said get put together with the tally sheet process. So this is sort of like the picking schedule. Indeed, it actually has the same coloration as the picking schedule, so that green once more is indicating that it's okay to pick. If it was a priority pick, then it would be blue, and remembering, of course, even those colours you can change and customise to suit. And you'll notice there are a number of screens that we have on here. The first one shows us things that we should be built. This product is currently required just on one invoice, but if there were multiple invoices here, each of those invoices would actually appear, or it might be that it was actually required for a back order. So that's the other possibility here, and these would all be color-coded. Things may be getting built right now. If we come to the being built screen, at the moment nothing is physically being built. There may be some things that we can't build. If we come across to that screen, oh look, there are actually two products right now, oops, we'll get out of that we need, or that have got quantities that we would like to build, but we don't have parts available for them right now. So if I was to have a look at this, we'll see that we're out of those SF1 type things, and likewise for this product there's going to be some componentry there that we don't have. It's been entered up as a manual build in that situation. But this cannot build screen is obviously important for possibly the purchasing officer to come and look at, because these are scenarios where we have an actual requirement to build something but we don't have the raw materials. There are other flags and warnings and so forth that should ensure, hopefully, that we never end up with anything on the cannot build screen. However, fact of life, it may happen. So at least you can be aware right now that we have some items that we can't build. There's also a customer build list if you wanted to find everything that's out there at the moment that you needed to build for a particular customer. This would typically be in a scenario where you might have large monthly orders or something for a customer, rather than this screen for the can't build or build list being populated automatically from invoices. You can simply set up scheduled builds to go and build these things and have them flagged for the customers. So it's just a way of seeing what is there that we currently need to build for customer XYZ. But the key thing is, in terms of internal communication, I haven't had to pick up the phone at all to talk to people in the warehouse, but the people in the warehouse are aware of the fact that right now we need to make at least one of these. You'll notice the calculated quantity to build is 1. That's because we only have a single invoice out there. If I just very quickly go and knock another invoice up, maybe to a different customer. We might make this an urgent pick item. We better put his order number in. He might want one of these as well. And exactly the same scenario, I'm just going to save that at this point in time without saying OK to pick. And at this point, If we come across to our inventory system once more, transactions, tally sheets, and our build list, we'll now see that the colour of this requirement has changed in the left-hand table, right? Because this is where we'd get to see every individual product that needs to be built. Over on the right-hand table, we see that there are now actually 2 invoices outstanding for this particular item. One of them has a blue priority coding associated with it. That's the urgent one. The green is just a normal priority type thing, and there can be other priority colours in there. So, and you'll also see that the calculated quantity that we need now is actually 2. So the key thing here is, without picking up the phone, the guys out in the warehouse are aware of the fact that they need to make some of this RFA product, and once more, based on the colorization, this screen is going to be sorted, and that's going to help them determine which products get built when. So what someone in the warehouse would actually go and do is they'd create a tally sheet for one of these products. They may well have had a printout of that original screen, although really they're only going to be building one product at a time, so they would probably know which product they need to build next because it was the one on top of the list. So they'd nominate the product, and also how many of them we're actually going to make. Once more, from the other screen, they would have known that they needed to make at least 2. They can do exactly the same sort of inquiries in terms of going out and seeing what they actually have parts for, so they can see that they could potentially make 7. They can see that it's not necessarily a high running or high consumption item. We've only sold 0 normally, so it tends to be a build on demand thing. But even so, they might decide to go and build 6. If they're going to go through the build process, we may as well make more than what we actually need. And it could be that in terms of actually building these things, initially you might only have enough time and or resource to buy just the or to build just the right number of products, but no, more often than not, you'll probably make more than what's required just to make sure that you don't have to do the build process again. If you're using the advanced warehousing options, which I actually have, the system will tell us whereabouts this product is normally stocked, and it will want to know whereabouts we're going to put the stock when we're finished. And I'd nominate that I'm going to put all 6 into that location, or it could go to a quarantine area if it's going to go through QA and so forth, but that's a whole other story. The other things that are done at this point in time, potentially when I'm making or setting off to make this product, is to flag who's actually doing the work. Now this is the same list of people that may be going out and picking and so forth potentially, because I'm assuming people in the warehouse may be multi-skilled. They may not, they could be different sets of people. That's fine. You'll also note, now that I brought it to your attention at least, that when I called the product up, the system automatically had all the right componentry there. When I changed the quantities required changed accordingly. And we also had these things called build notes, which are effectively instructions on how to go and build this particular product. They in turn would have been entered up as product notes in the first place. So it's really just bringing all of these things together. Now at this stage, one of the things I can do is a build instruction sheet, which I would produce. That report would go out and have all of the information from this screen on it, so that people would know how many of the components they need to go and pull from whereabouts, and it would include these build notes and so forth. And you'll also note at this stage, when I've done my print of the sheet, the number has been allocated automatically, the same as if I'd hit a save. Now at some point in time, time passes, and I'll just go and show that while we're passing this time, if we look at our build list now, you'll see that at the moment, in terms of what's required to be built, that's actually blank now. If we come to our being built screen, we actually have the fact that these RFAs are currently being built, and they're being built on tally sheet 49, and ultimately we've got 2 invoices that are hanging out for this stock. So time passes, The person who is working, or people, because there may be multiple people, and if there were, you would record each of the people involved in the actual manufacture process for these particular products. Um, and just add additional lines on here. So Freddie might have needed some help. He might not have known so at first place, but he had Timmy come and help him and so forth as well. When these products are actually built, they simply hit the post button. And at that point in time, a couple of things will occur. Most important being that this tally sheet will be flagged as being complete, and also the components, their quantities on hand will be reduced by 12 and 36 accordingly. So I go out, I build this one item, I've made 6 of them, and when I've finished, I call my tally sheet back up on the screen and hit the post. Of course, I have to go and flag it as being closed before I can do that, as a safety check to make sure that someone doesn't accidentally post a tally sheet. A tally sheet, someone has to physically come and check that box to say it's closed to make sure that it doesn't actually go through and get posted before the products are actually available on the shelf. Also, I suppose the people that are doing the build would also be aware that they needed 2 of these items for invoices. They're going to make a decision as to whether they're actually going to put these out on the shelf at this location, or they may go and sit them in another area because they know that they're going to need to pick them at some stage, and possibly quite quickly. So if we just post those, or this tally sheet at this stage, you could do multiples of them from the menu, but normally from here we'd just flag the fact that we've completed that item, and it's gone out and now updated our stock on hand. If we go and look at the product now, just do an INE prod. Whoops, if I could type. If we look at RFA now, we'll see that we now actually have 6 on hand. If we come and look at the transactions, we can see that they came from tally sheet number 49, and we could go and call up the details of the tally sheet if we needed to in 6 months' time, for example, to see who the people were that were involved in actually making that, because maybe they didn't put it together properly, or some other QA type things. And we can also see whereabouts we said we were putting those out in the warehouse and so forth as well. Now, as well as the system updates at the same stage, there's been emails sent out to tell people that this product has now been physically built. Here's the requirements that we had for these invoices. Here's their statuses and so forth. You can simply click on these links. I tend not to, because it will take you back to a log-on screen first. That's a bit slower. If it was me, I'd simply note the numbers, come back to my main screen, and enter in my invoice numbers manually from there. So that's the first of my invoice numbers. If I come across to my products screen now, if I come back to this, we now see that we have 6 on hand. I would change my deliver quantity now to 1. I'd come back to my front screen. Bear in mind there could be multiple products here that needed to get built, in which case I might have to wait a little bit longer, but now everything that I need for this invoice is available. So I'd simply come back to my front screen, say this is now okay to pick, click save, and I'm away. And when I say I'm away, what's now also happening is, once more out in the warehouse area over on the picking schedule, that invoice is now flagged as something that is okay to pick in terms of the okay to pick thing, and it will go out through the picking sequence and so forth. My other alternative, if you're not using the picking optimization and so forth, if that sections of automation, the other thing that could have happened at this stage is that manually As the salesperson, now knowing that everything is out there, you may have manually selected the pick slip. But as you may have gathered through these things, I think if you're in a real wholesale type environment where you have a real warehouse out the back and people dedicated in that function, I believe that there's a lot of merit in actually using this picking schedule process and so forth. And that brings us to the end of our second invoicing session. I hope you found something useful. Bye.